Ladies and gentlemen, the time for waiting is over. The future of high-speed transportation is finally here. The luxurious Hyperloop is about to change the entire world of commuting. Before we know it, we'll be rocketing from city to city at over 700 miles per hour, immersed in state-of-the-art levitating pods, all while combating climate change one trip at a time. Thanks to the visionary minds of Elon Musk and Richard Branson, not to mention the billions of dollars thrown around, we're about to witness a revolution in transportation. So how does this floating train actually work? And when will we be able to use it? Seatbelts on, let's find out. Alright, so what exactly is this supposedly revolutionary Hyperloop? We know it's a train, but if we look a little closer, it's not like any train we've ever seen before. Where are the wheels, the coal, the steam? Those traditional aspects are thrown out the window, and it's all in the name of convenience, efficiency, and sustainability. As the new form of ground transportation, the Hyperloop aims to be the benchmark transit system of the future. Before too long, its tunnels will not only be connecting neighboring cities in record-breaking time, but they'll be traversing underwater, cutting through mountains, perhaps even going fully vertical. Is this the new world equivalent of Willy Wonka's glass elevator? To answer that question, global engineering and tech giants will need to put this fascinating project to the test, and to do so, they'll need to spend big. But before we jump into the nitty-gritty of the money, and there's a lot of money changing hands, let's get an understanding of how this amazing technology actually operates. At its core, the Hyperloop is a type of modernized vac train system. Say what? Vac train is the conjoining of the words vacuum and train, which is essentially what this futuristic project really is. The magnetically propelled capsules are shot through the airtight, low-pressure tubes that are elevated off the ground at, get this, over 750 miles per hour. Since the tubes are deliberately drained of their excess inner air, in other words vacuumed, the friction and drag is brought to an absolute minimum. Just to put that speed into perspective, here's the world's fastest car, a Bugatti Chiron Supersport 300+. Here's a Boeing 747, and here's our dear Hyperloop. Ready? Go! The Hyperloop travels at more than double the speed of the supercar and leaves the plane firmly in its dust as well. It's not even a competition. At speeds this intense and without air, we're pretty darn thankful that the pods carry their own air supply. Well, if it's fast, it's gotta be loud, right? Wrong. The Hyperloop is advertised as being remarkably quiet, so not only will it be lightning quick, but surprisingly relaxing. Up until now, there's been no fully functional Hyperloop system anywhere in the world. Discussions have floated around in the UAE and the USA, but a usable network has never been completed. In fact, the concept hasn't even been tested with human passengers. For a number of years, Hyperloop remained as little more than another one of Elon Musk's highly ambitious ideas. That all changed when British billionaire Richard Branson got involved. His company, Virgin Hyperloop One, was the first to test the technology in May of 2016. After years of negotiations, tests, funding, R&D, and perhaps most importantly, finding the ideal location to install the revolutionary transit system, we finally have a clear path to action. In 2017, Virgin signed agreements with the Indian governments of Maharashtra and Karnataka to study the impact of a Hyperloop in the region. Fast forward to July of 2019, following plenty of back and forth, the Indian government finally gave the nod for construction to go ahead. With some of the most densely populated cities on the planet, the need for efficient, fast, and reliable transport is as great in India as any other country on the planet. The construction will start here, in the state of Maharashtra, and it will provide lightning-quick transit between two sprawling cities, Mumbai, the nation's financial center, and Pune, a growing industrial and urban hub nestled in the middle of the Sahyadri Hills. Now for the question on everyone's lips, how much does a cutting-edge, space-age train actually cost to develop? We'll tell you, it's a lot. A heck of a lot. The multi-billion-dollar infrastructure project, estimated to cost about 700 billion rupees, or close enough to 10 billion American, has required funding from investors time and time again. Virgin Hyperloop One's most recent fundraising efforts secured $172 million back in 2019, at least $90 million of which came from a Dubai transit and port company called DP World. The same Dubai company previously invested $25 million, while also stating that they're willing to contribute another $500 million in private capital to complete the project's first phase. Those are massive numbers, no doubt. But hey, when the dream becomes a reality, when Hyperloop will allow us to live anywhere, work anywhere, and be anywhere, the costs will be totally worth it. The cash needed to build a pioneering system is used for far more than just the pods, tracks, and first-class snacks. You'll also have to consider the cost of acquiring the land, the immense bill of paying thousands of construction workers, and the logistics of shipping new-age technology from overseas. Thankfully, at least, the government is footing the bill for all the land. The rest? Only time will tell. What about the prices to actually ride the Hyperloop? Well, unless you're forking out the big bucks for the ludicrously lavish gold class section, the tickets are poised to be surprisingly affordable. We're still waiting on exact figures, however, Elon Musk presented a comparable price for us. A Los Angeles to San Francisco ticket on a Hyperloop-style train would theoretically only set you back about $20, a third of the price of a regular train ticket. Speaking of the Tesla visionary, while Musk is no longer manning the helm of the Hyperloop, he still is to be credited with the initial concept. The SpaceX CEO first announced his ultra-modern transportation system back in 2013 in a 60-page letter. Clearly a busy man, Musk didn't have the time to keep the idea all to himself. In fact, he didn't want to. With an overarching philosophy to combat climate change, Musk open-sourced Hyperloop's basic design, meaning that anyone could take, adjust, and implement the high-speed idea. We know it's high-tech, we know it's a new way of thinking about common transportation, but fundamentally, how will it benefit the people? How does the pod system's speed and travel time compare to a modern-day Indian train? The roughly 100-mile route from Mumbai to Pune is one of India's busiest, with near enough to 75 million passengers making the trip every year. At the moment, it's a 3.5-hour trip. The planned Hyperloop line will connect the two urban hubs in just 35 minutes. It opens up a world of opportunities. No longer will we need to live and work in the same city, and no longer will our social circles be restricted to the same zip code. The Hyperloop won't just benefit its users, but the wider population as well. How? By tackling the beast that is global warming. Virgin Hyperloop One CEO Jay Walder made his company's intentions crystal clear. Transportation is one of the key areas that contributes to that climate crisis. We should have 21st century solutions to be able to deal with a 21st century problem. Hyperloop routes also promise to be up to 6 times more energy efficient than air travel on short routes. By reducing noise pollution, carbon emissions, and providing another opportunity for the public to rely on public transportation instead of fuel-guzzling road vehicles, we're making significant progress. The benefit extends to the Indian economy as well. If there's a surefire way to inject a boost into local spending, it's by building the world's first ever Hyperloop. Jay Walders proudly admitted that the project will generate hundreds of thousands of new high-tech jobs, create over $36 billion in wider socioeconomic benefits, and create new Hyperloop component and manufacturing opportunities to export to India and the rest of the world. Of course, there's always two sides to a coin, and the Hyperloop comes with a few uncertainties. The breakneck speed of the capsules, which remember are almost moving at the speed of sound, may cause dizziness. More importantly though, Hyperloop is still nothing more than a theoretical system. It hasn't been tested with humans, period. The company has a test facility in the desert north of Las Vegas, yet still, the pods have only reached speeds of around 240 miles per hour. While India is the obvious and contracted frontrunner, it's not the only destination with a stake in the Hyperloop game. Virgin is also planning a system to link Dubai and Abu Dhabi, which will cut travel time between the two cities to just 12 minutes. Elon Musk's very own infrastructure startup, The Boring Company, has been given the all-clear to dig a Hyperloop tunnel between Washington, D.C. and New York City. Once complete, the 3-hour Amtrak journey would be slashed to just a 30-minute pod ride. A European company called Hyperloop is pioneering concepts in the EU, and there's plenty of talk of a connection between Mexico City to Guadalajara in Mexico as well. Alas, the rest of the world still sits in the shadow of India's plan. In the words of Sir Richard Branson himself, Virgin Hyperloop One can help India become a global transportation pioneer and forge a new world-changing industry.
It's record-breaking, it's painfully expensive, and it's a technology that looks like it was zapped straight out of the Jetsons. But what exactly is this revolutionary Hyperloop? What's all this fuss about? The Hyperloop concept made its debut at the Dubai International Motor Show in 2019. And ever since that day, it's been a focal point in construction and innovation, not only in the UAE, but around the globe. Dubai and Abu Dhabi are already world leaders in the architectural innovation sector, and this piece of new transport technology solidifies that reputation tenfold. The Hyperloop is a train, but not like any train you've seen before. As a new form of ground transportation, the Hyperloop aims to be the benchmark driver-free transit of the next generation. Carrying either passengers or freight, its carriages, or pods, transit from origin to destination in record time. Currently, a trip between Dubai and Abu Dhabi takes about 90 minutes. On board the Hyperloop, that time is slashed to just 12 minutes. Need we say more? The technology is in development by a number of companies, but Richard Branson's Virgin Hyperloop One is one of the big brands now leading the race. The Virgin Hyperloop One system in Dubai promises to be 100% electric, using magnetic levitation to glide the capsules through the giant low-pressure tubing network, either above or below ground. Think of the pod or capsule like a plastic puck on an air hockey table. That's the premise of the Hyperloop mechanics in a nutshell. Hyperloop could see passengers traveling at over 700 miles an hour within floating, modern, and ultra-luxurious pods. You would think that jet airline-like speeds would create jet engine-like noise, but that couldn't be further from reality. Not only is it lightning fast, but it's also quiet, with the noise levels inside the pods advertised as significantly lower than traditional forms of transportation. Fast, relaxing, and luxurious? Damn, sign us up. Over 10,000 travelers can fit on the system every hour, with a resizable fleet of pods ready to increase or decrease depending on the demand. It's environmentally friendly, it's technologically revolutionary, it's ambitious, and it just might work. Sounds like something with Elon Musk written all over it, wouldn't you say? Well, there's a good reason for that. Turns out that the original idea for the Hyperloop came from none other than the Tesla founder himself. Elon Musk first described his idea for a futuristic transportation system that would send passenger pods through tubes at speeds of hundreds of miles an hour back in 2013. Back then, the notion seemed insane, to say the least. When you're the fifth richest person on the planet with an estimated net worth of $74.2 billion as of July 2020, you can afford to try out a few outlandish ideas. His comically named startup called Boring Company has proposed plans to dig a Hyperloop tunnel in the USA that would allow rapid transit between Washington, D.C. and New York City, taking just half an hour. As it stands, that's a 3-hour Amtrak ride. In Dubai, however, it's not Musk leading the charge, it's Sir $4.8 billion Richard Branson with Virgin Hyperloop One. The Hyperloop concept was explicitly open-sourced by Musk, with Virgin and a number of other companies encouraged to take the ideas and further develop them. Hyperloop Transportation Technologies, Canadian company Transpod, Indian engineering company DGWH Hyperloop, among others, are also throwing their hats into the ring, each at various stages of project development. Abu Dhabi-based company Aldar signed a deal to start working on the 150-kilometer project between Dubai and Abu Dhabi in 2018, with a release date for the first section set for later in 2020. Regardless of who's leading the charge in which area, the companies, particularly Virgin Hyperloop One, operate with a purpose to benefit the community. Envisioners are confident that Hyperloop will take the pressure off gridlocked roads, making travel between cities easier and potentially unlocking major economic benefits as a result. If we take a step back, Dubai and Abu Dhabi are both being developed as smart cities, with each rapidly expanding metropolis aiming to reduce their carbon emissions by a whopping 75% by 2023. In the words of Hyperloop One's Marcia Kristoff, this transit system is simply the logical next step toward that reduced emissions goal. Compared to traditional trains, you know, those that run on wheels and rails, so 2019. The Hyperloop is promised to travel 2 to 3 times faster on average from one destination to another, capable of considerably higher multiples if operating at its zippy top speed. This is largely due to the fact that the tubes or tunnels have deliberately been drained of their inner air, minimizing air friction and drag, and ultimately allowing pods to whoosh through at up to 750 miles per hour. The pods, of course, would carry their own air supply. Sure, this system will slice travel times in half and reduce pollution and traffic congestion on the roads, but there's another benefit which can't be ignored. Residents of the UAE will now be able to access job opportunities that were previously considered impossible. Hyperloop could provide exceptional economic progress, which is one of the main reasons why Dubai and its neighbors are so excited about it. The entire Gulf could become unified, expanding business networks to new heights. The Dubai Hyperloop is poised to be the very first commercial track of its kind, a true game changer. With a reputation as such, you'd expect it to cost tens of billions of dollars to build, and certainly astronomically more expensive than traditional rail systems. Surprise, surprise, that's not even close to true. Hyperloop could be cheaper to build than traditional high-speed rail. Estimates put it between $20 and $40 million per kilometer, accumulating to $6 billion, or 22 billion dirhams, for the entire project based on recent estimates. However, Bebop Gresta, chairman of Hyperloop Transportation Technologies, the company that's pioneering the Abu Dhabi sector, has stated that any money put into the mega project can be recouped in 8 to 15 years from ticket sales. So ultimately, it's an investment. Does that mean that average commuters like us will be forced to hand over our entire wallets for a simple one-way ticket to help the developers recoup their building expenses? Fortunately, apparently not. While the exact numbers haven't been revealed just yet, it's widely anticipated that Hyperloop fares will be very affordable, likely even cheaper than both train travel and air travel. At the moment, getting from Beijing to Shanghai on the high-speed railway costs upwards of 555 yuan, or $80. Tickets from London to Paris on the Eurostar start at €52 or $60, one way for a standard class seat. So, assuming you don't opt for the Hyperloop's Gold Class section, which is packed to the rafters with luxury, we can expect prices to be competitive, if not far cheaper than its international competitors. The UAE, and more specifically the great city of Dubai, is chock full of construction marvels, futuristic designs, and world-famous attractions. Not to mention cloud-touching skyscrapers. Money has been thrown in every direction in order to turn these desert sands into a global powerhouse. So it's not hard to understand how the nickname of the City of Gold has come to fruition. After all, there are literally ATMs which disperse solid bricks of the stuff. The soon-to-be-completed Hyperloop is just the next link in the chain of eye-catching landmarks. Hundreds of amazing feats of engineering have come before it. So what do you say? Shall we take a second to check out some of Dubai's other billion-dollar megaprojects? Towering over the city, peaking at an incomprehensible 2,717 feet tall, the Burj Khalifa is the tallest tower in the world. It features 160 floors, some of which offer $7 million penthouses that you can actually live in. With an observation deck on the 124th floor, the views from this skyscraper truly are unbeatable. It's more than double the size of the Empire State Building and cost $1.5 billion to construct. At the peak of construction, more than 12,000 workers from all over the globe were on site every day, accumulating a total of 22 million man-hours between them over 6 years. Crazy, right? We know what you're thinking. Yeah, it's tall, but it lacks a certain element of spin. If you want to face the sunrise in the morning and the sunset at night, then Dubai has the answer. Almost completed is the world's first rotating skyscraper, the 80-story, 1,378-foot-tall Dynamic Tower, known as the Dynamic Tower Hotel or the Da Vinci Tower. It's been a long time waiting for this architectural piece of art, and it won't be cheap either, with a final bill of $1.2 billion. Perhaps what's most amazing, besides the ability to physically swivel your apartment at the touch of a button, is that it's a prefabricated skyscraper. What that means is that every rotating floor is built in a factory and then shipped to the construction site to be attached to the central cylinder. It saves months of construction compared to typical skyscrapers. Could this be the future of skyscraper construction? We'll have to wait and see. Leave it to Dubai to revolutionize another industry. They've already revolutionized the hotel sector with the world's first 7-star hotel. The Burj Al Arab is one of Dubai's most famous symbols of extravagance, despite being built over 2 decades ago in 1999. And we don't use the word extravagance lightly. The outrageously lavish royal suite will set you back a whopping $24,000 per night. Don't worry, of course you'll have access to 24-karat gold iPads. Clearly, this city is focused on the future, and if you needed any more proof of that, then here it is. The Museum of the Future. On the outside, this unique structure is shaped like an eye, which is deliberately related to the concepts of perception and knowledge. On the inside, it showcases the wonders of AI, machine learning, and robots. With a projected cost of 499 million dirhams, about 135 million American dollars, this Dubai landmark will soon be one of the most expensive museums ever made. The museum initiative was put forth by Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who has ruled Dubai since 2006. He rocks a net fortune estimated to be $18 billion, so who knows what he's got in store for us next.
This is a Hyperloop, a system that uses electric propulsion and electromagnetic levitation under near-vacuum conditions to create a new form of transportation that is faster, safer, and even cheaper than traditional railways. It works like this. One set of magnets repels and pushes the train up off the track, and another moves the train ahead. The 2 sets of magnetic waves work together to push the vehicle forward, reducing friction and allowing it to reach pretty extreme speeds. The super speed is achieved through minimizing air resistance. The Hyperloop's passenger pods move through a low-pressure sealed tube containing a vacuum that sucks out almost all of the air. It mimics the conditions of being at about 200,000 feet or 61,000 meters above sea level. The Hyperloop can propel pods at speeds of over 1,000 kilometers or 600 miles per hour. That's 3 times faster than high-speed rail and more than 10 times faster than traditional rail. As of 2019, Virgin has already raised $400 million from private investors for the Hyperloop project, with an expected launch date of 2030. But internal documents from 2016 detailed the estimated costs for a 107-mile loop around the Bay Area to be much more expensive, $84 and $121 million per mile, for a total cost of $8.98 to $12.94 billion. But it's really not that bad in comparison to some other transportation projects. Britain's ongoing HS2 project, a high-speed rail network, is currently running at a reported cost of $415 million per mile. Virgin's Hyperloop definitely has some cost-saving strategies going for it. The Virgin Hyperloop can have tunnels about half the size needed for a high-speed rail, which could also cut the budget of construction down to almost half. For example, California's current high-speed rail project is projected to cost $80 billion. Replacing it with a Hyperloop would be expected to cost about $40 billion. Quite the discount. But now that you know how a Hyperloop really works, it's time to hop on one and see if this new mode of transportation is all it's hyped up to be. Let's take a bike in a futuristic pod. This is our transportation pod. Isn't it beautiful? With Virgin's Hyperloop, there are no timetables. Several pods can depart in the same minute, and they all travel directly to their destination with no stops. At $20 per ride and about 15 million trips per year, the Hyperloop could potentially gross $300 million annually. Today, we're heading across the country from New York City to Los Angeles. It's a distance of 2,445 miles, or 3,936 kilometers, that would normally take 7 hours and 43 minutes by plane, 23 hours and 47 minutes by train, or 47 hours and 30 minutes by car. But with the Hyperloop, our ride is going to be an efficient 4 hours and 28 minutes long. Let's take our seats. The pods are made of durable and recyclable materials. There's even preserved moss in the cabin. We can store our luggage in these racks. There are 28 passengers per pod, and they get to choose from these spacious seats. This is no cramped subway ride. Just check out the skylight shining down into our cabin. We'll get a peek at it every time our pod comes out of a tunnel and travels above ground. We can place our phone on our personal wireless charging station. We better sit down now because it's time to depart. No matter what we encounter, the pod will easily conquer our route. It can climb 10% inclines with a velocity of 100 meters per second, a 6-time improvement over high-speed rail. There's a tight turn coming up, but that won't bother us either. The pod will bank around turns similar to a plane gliding through air. We'll feel barely any acceleration as the pod smoothly completes turns that are 4.5 times tighter than high-speed rail. This allows us to smoothly reach high speeds with a turning radius capability of 1.36 kilometers at 100 meters per second. The pod is also looking out for our safety. The pod safety controller continuously monitors our condition. It's air-conditioned and scrubbed of CO2 and airborne contaminants. Plus, there's an automated fire suppression system. The pod also uses rapid tube repressurization. Venting valves along the tube's length can safely and quickly repressurize the cabin. The tube also contains emergency exits every 75 meters, so there's no need to feel like you're trapped underground. But it looks like we finally reached our stop. The pod uses a handy LED notification system to tell us when the ride is over. The airlock will gradually and safely bring the vehicle out of the near vacuum environment, and we can step out into sunny LA. The Hyperloop isn't just super convenient, it's also much better for our environment. It's fully electric with 0 direct emissions, and solar panels can be installed on the outer surface of the tube. It will also have unparalleled economic benefits. A proposed route between the Indian cities of Mumbai and Pune, a distance of about 75 miles, will be able to move 150 million passengers annually. The 4-hour journey will be reduced to just 25 minutes, while taking 150,000 tons of CO2 out of the air every year. Citizens will be able to live and work where they want, creating an estimated $36 billion in socioeconomic benefits. Over the lifespan of the project, the Hyperloop could create 180,000 new jobs. If Virgin is right about their ambitious project, the benefits of this new mode of mass transportation could change the future of travel forever. Back in 2018, plans for an underwater high-speed railway tunnel was given the go-ahead by the Chinese government. According to some reports, it's believed this will be the world's first underwater vacuum tunnel for high-speed trains. This new line plans to link the mainland city of Ningbo and the archipelago city Zhoushan. Both are in the Zhejiang province and are 40 miles apart. The biggest logistic problem is the HANGZHOU Bay, an area of the East China Sea separating the cities. At the moment, traveling via car from Ningbo to Zhoushan takes around 1.5 hours over the Ningbo Sea Bridge. This new tunnel will significantly reduce the traveling time to around 30 minutes, while traveling from the city Hangzhou to Zhoushan via train will eventually be around 80 minutes. Previously, Zhoushan wasn't connected to the country's main railway system. The underwater plan was included in China's big public transport ambition, the Yangzhou Railway Plan. The total line will be 77 kilometers or around 48 miles long altogether, most of which will be newly created tracks. The underwater tunnel itself will be 16.2 kilometers or 10 miles in length, making this the longest underwater tunnel in the country. The current champion is the underwater tunnel section on the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. That section is 4 miles in size. The new tunnel will most excitingly have access for the famously quick bullet trains. These vehicles in China have a top speed of around 250 kilometers or 155 miles per hour at the moment. Hey, I can drive that fast. What's the big deal? Yeah, kidding, not really. Along the line will be 7 stations to accommodate as many travelers as possible. 4 of these stations will be newly built, while 3 will be redeveloped. During May 2020, drilling for the tunnel was completed after halting construction for a number of months due to the global events. In August 2020, the technical plans were then greenlit by authorities. The tunnel will be 14 meters or 46 feet in diameter and hit a maximum depth of 78 meters or 256 feet below the seabed. The tunnel will be built with the aid of an 11-kilometer or 7-mile-long tunneling shield. These large metal cylinders help make it possible for workers to build underwater. Originally, the tunnel was slated to open by 2025, yet due to the delay, it's now likely to be completed by 2026 at the earliest. This massive undertaking was estimated to cost $3.6 billion in 2018. China's high-speed rail system is constantly growing. By the end of 2020, the length of the whole line amounted to 37,900 kilometers. That's nearly 23,550 miles. China has practically doubled the size of their high-speed lines since 2015. All of their various railway lines came to 146,000 kilometers, or around 90,907 miles in total. The World Bank examined China's costs on their railway lines. China was paying between $17 million to $21 million per kilometer for high-speed rail, while in Europe it was between $25 million to $39 million per kilometer. So on the high end, that means on average, China has spent nearly, ready, $796 billion on the system to date. The document also delivered that railway tunnels cost between $10 million to $15 million per kilometer, while in the US it was as high as $50 million. So for the new underwater tunnel on the high end, we're looking at a fee of at least $150 million. This, of course, doesn't differentiate between tunnels within land and those underwater, which will likely cost more. During 2018, China planned to increase their bullet train network over the next 2 years with a further $554 million in funding. In 2021, the U.S. think tank Marco Polo examined China's high-speed railway. They estimated that they have spent $602 billion on just constructing the actual tracks. However, the income from them has generated a net benefit of $378 billion into the economy since the high-speed rail's inception. China is also evolving their railway service when it comes to their trains. In 2020, they introduced the world's fastest driverless bullet train, Scary, that can reach 217 miles per hour, while the Shanghai Maglev, the world's first magnetic levitation, or maglev line, that opened in 2004. It can hit a top speed of 268 miles per hour. Then, last year, China began testing a maglev train that can reach a massive 373 miles per hour. Since we're talking about underwater tunnels, we can't exactly miss talking about the longest underwater railway tunnel in the world, the Channel Tunnel, also known as the Channel, or the Eurostar. This tunnel connects the UK to France, giving the island its only physical connection to mainland Europe. The tunnel is 31.5 miles long, with 23.5 miles being undersea, over double the length of China's future aquatic tunnel. Opened in 1994, the Channel Tunnel cost the equivalent of nearly $20 billion to build today, yet the first idea of the tunnel was all the way back in 1802. This mammoth construction had 13,000 workers during its peak. Vehicles are driven into shuttles that are being pulled by trains. Then, they're ferried between the nations, but there's also passenger trains available. All the trains are limited to a maximum speed of 100 miles per hour. During 2004, one of the boring machines used in constructing the Channel Tunnel was put up for auction on eBay, a piece of history for the buyer. In the end, it was sold for around $56,000. The base price of a ticket to drive your car through the tunnel is around $176 one-way or $139 for a return. Another impressive example is Japan's Seikan Tunnel. Connecting the islands of Honshu and Hokkaido, this railway tunnel is a massive 33.5 miles long in total, with 14.3 miles of tunnel under the sea, making this tunnel the longest in the world that features an underwater segment. On top of its length, it's also one of the deepest tunnels around. It's built 790 feet below sea level within the Sagaro Strait. Opened in 1988, plans for the Seikan Tunnel have been around in one form or another since 1939. Yet it wasn't until 1955, after a major typhoon sunk a number of passenger vessels, that plans began to properly form. Around 1957, once the Japanese government surveyed the creation of an underwater tunnel, they discovered it would cost $167 million at the time. The actual cost of building the tunnel that started in 1977 was much higher. It came to $7 billion back then, which would be $30 billion today. In 1976, the workers building the tunnel struck a patch of soft rock that caused the construction to flood with nearly 80 tons of seawater per minute. It took 2 months to control the leak, and no one was fatally injured. During 2012, the project to create the deepest underwater tunnel in the world was approved by Norway's government. This would be the Ryfast. Connecting the city of Stavanger to the district of Strand, the tunnel would open for the public fully in 2020. With nearly 12 miles in length total, this road tunnel is the longest and deepest subsea tunnel in the world. It's 958 feet below sea level, beating its Seikan rival by 168 feet. The Ryfast actually consists of 2 tunnel systems. Firstly, there's the Ryfylke Tunnel that's just shy of 9 miles in length. The second is the Hundvåg Tunnel, a little over 3 miles. Previously, cars would have to get a ferry from Stavanger to the town of Solbakk in Strand. This trip would take 45 minutes, as long as a ferry is already there, of course. With this new tunnel, the journey will take just 15 minutes. Back in 2012, the project was estimated to cost around $614 million. The cost was offset by nearly $44 million coming from grants from local governments and business communities. The remaining fee will be returned via tolls on the tunnel's entrances. Final fact finished, speaking of construction underwater, it's possible to stay in a hotel that sits beneath the ocean. The Maraca Residence is a luxury hotel room at the resort, Conrad Maldives Rangali Island. Back in 2018, a 4-night stay in the Asian island abode would set you back $200,000. That includes a 24-hour butler and chef. Currently, a 7-night stay costs nearly $150,000. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.